place has known magic.
I cannot hope to destroy it alone.
Voldemort has chosen Draco Malfoy for a mission.
These are mad times we live in, mad!
In my life, I've seen things that are truly horrific.
When Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince arrived in 2009, it carried with it a quiet but unmistakable shift in atmosphere. The wonder that once defined the early years at Hogwarts had already begun to erode, but this sixth chapter transforms that erosion into something more intimate and unsettling. The story no longer revolves around a hidden chamber or a magical tournament. Instead, it lingers in memory, obsession, and the slow excavation of a villain's past. The wizarding world is at war, though not always an explosive spectacle. Fear moves like fog through familiar streets, and the danger feels closer, more personal. This is a film about transition between adolescence and adulthood, innocence and accountability, life and loss. The opening movements emphasize that the conflict is no longer contained within castle walls. Catastrophe spills into the Muggle world, visually underscoring that Lord Voldemort's power has grown beyond secrecy. The threat is systemic, political, and psychological. The Ministry of Magic appears strained and defensive, while Dumbledore operates with urgency, aware that time is thinning. This tension frames Harry's sixth year not as another academic term, but as preparation for a final reckoning. The tonal palette of the film, muted grays, shadowed corridors, candlelit chambers, reflects this sobering maturity. The cinematography embraces darkness, not merely as an aesthetic choice, but as thematic reinforcement of moral ambiguity and encroaching despair. At the heart of the narrative lies a battered potions textbook bearing the handwritten note, "This book is the property of the Half-Blood Prince." That inscription becomes both mystery and metaphor. For Harry, the book is initially a shortcut to excellence. Scribbled corrections and inventive spells allow him to surpass expectations in Professor Slughorn's class, transforming him from an average student into a star pupil. Yet, this academic advantage comes with a hidden cost. The annotations represent knowledge divorced from context, power without provenance. The prince's voice is intimate, persuasive, and gradually disquieting. Harry's reliance on it mirrors a broader theme in the series, the seductive ease of power when its origins remain obscured. The introduction of Horace Slughorn is pivotal to the film's structure. Charming, vain, and selectively generous, Slughorn embodies the politics of favoritism and legacy. He collects talented students like trophies, cultivating connections that may benefit him later. Yet, beneath his genial exterior lies guilt, an unresolved memory that holds the key to Voldemort's transformation. Dumbledore recruits him precisely because of that buried secret. The dynamic between Dumbledore and Harry deepens here. Their private lessons become a journey into the past, not merely exposition, but excavation. Through Pensieve memories, the audience witnesses Tom Riddle as a child, composed, manipulative, disturbingly self-aware. These glimpses strip away the mythic aura of Voldemort and reveal something more chilling. He was once a boy who chose domination over empathy. Tom Riddle's evolution is presented not as an accident, but as a sequence of deliberate decisions. His fascination with Horcruxes, objects containing fragments of a soul, exposes a philosophy rooted in fragmentation and immortality at any cost. The concept of Horcruxes reframes the entire saga. Voldemort's seeming invincibility is not mystical inevitability, but calculated division of self. The horror of this act is metaphysical. To split one's soul is to maim it. The film handles this revelation with restraint, allowing the gravity of the idea to settle. It is not spectacle, but moral violation that resonates. Dumbledore's insistence on understanding Voldemort's past underscores a key argument. To defeat darkness, one must comprehend its origins. Parallel to these dark revelations runs a surprisingly tender exploration of adolescence. Romance, jealousy, and insecurity thread through the narrative, providing contrast to the encroaching war. Ron's accidental entanglement with Lavender Brown injects humor, but also exposes his vulnerability. Hermione's hurt is palpable, simmering beneath intellectual composure. Harry's growing feelings for Ginny Weasley unfold quietly, framed less as grand passion and more as hesitant realization. These subplots do not trivialize the central conflict, rather they humanize it. The looming war makes these fleeting moments of teenage awkwardness feel precious. The characters cling to normalcy because they sense it's slipping away. Draco Malfoy's arc offers one of the film's most compelling studies in internal conflict. Tasked by Voldemort with a near-impossible mission, Draco moves through Hogwarts with haunted determination. His arrogance fades, replaced by isolation and fear. The camera lingers on his solitude, emphasizing the psychological burden he carries. Unlike previous installments where he functioned primarily as antagonist, here he becomes tragic. He is a boy cornered by forces far beyond his maturity. The Vanishing Cabinet subplot is less about mechanics and more about desperation. Each failed attempt at repair chips away at his composure, illustrating the cruelty of Voldemort's manipulative leadership. The relationship between Harry and Dumbledore reaches profound complexity in this chapter. Dumbledore is no longer the infallible guardian figure. He is weary, occasionally distant, and visibly burdened by knowledge. Their private conversations carry urgency, as though both understand the endgame approaching. The retrieval of a crucial memory from Slughorn becomes symbolic of confronting uncomfortable truth. Slughorn's shame over having discussed Horcruxes with Tom Riddle speaks to complicity born of vanity. When he finally relinquishes the unaltered memory, it feels less like plot progression and more like moral confession. The film's visual language amplifies its themes. The use of shadow is pervasive, transforming Hogwarts into a labyrinth of uncertainty. Even festive spaces feel subdued. The warmth of the Great Hall contrasts with the cold blues of exterior sequences, reflecting the tension between sanctuary and siege. The score underscores this duality, oscillating between playful motifs during romantic misadventures and somber orchestration during revelations about Voldemort's past. Humor surfaces frequently, yet it feels fragile, as though laughter itself is an act of resistance. One of the most arresting sequences involves Dumbledore and Harry journeying to retrieve a Horcrux from a hidden cave. The environment is stark and foreboding, stripped of Hogwarts familiarity. The potion Dumbledore must consume to access the locket becomes an ordeal of suffering and trust. Harry's helplessness during this scene is devastating. He must obey Dumbledore's insistence to continue administering the potion despite the agony it causes. This inversion of roles, student sustaining teacher, signals the approaching end of their partnership. The firestorm that follows is both literal and symbolic, a burst of light against suffocating darkness. Upon returning to Hogwarts, the narrative accelerates toward tragedy. The infiltration of Death Eaters through the repaired cabinet confirms that safety has been breached. The climactic confrontation atop the Astronomy Tower distills the film's themes into a single moment of suspended morality. Draco's hesitation reveals that he is not irredeemable. He is terrified. Dumbledore's calm acceptance complicates the notion of victory and defeat. When Severus Snape casts the fatal spell, the shock reverberates beyond spectacle. It is betrayal, layered upon long-standing ambiguity. Snape's role, always enigmatic, becomes central to the saga's final trajectory. Dumbledore's death marks a definitive end to the era of protection. The image of students raising their wands in silent tribute is understated yet powerful. It is communal grief rendered luminous. In that silence, the series crosses into irrevocable territory. The mentor is gone, the responsibility shifts fully to Harry and his peers. The subsequent revelation that the retrieved locket was a decoy intensifies the sense of unfinished business. Victory is deferred. The path forward is uncertain and perilous. Throughout the film, the theme of identity recurs. The half-blood prince's identity ultimately intertwines with questions of lineage, prejudice, and self-definition. Blood status, pure, half, or otherwise, has long functioned as social currency within the wizarding world. By foregrounding this concept in the title, the film interrogates inherited bias. Voldemort himself is half-blood, yet he weaponizes purity rhetoric. The irony underscores the hollowness of supremacist ideology. Identity, the film suggests, is shaped by choices, not ancestry. The romantic threads culminate not in triumphant union, but in bittersweet restraint. Harry's decision to distance himself from Ginny reflects his awareness of the danger surrounding him. Love becomes both motivation and liability. Ron and Hermione's unresolved tension carries into the uncertain future, their bond strengthened by shared loss. These interpersonal dynamics anchor the epic conflict in relatable emotion. Without them, the mythology would risk abstraction. In retrospect, this installment functions as the hinge of the entire series. It bridges the exploratory tone of earlier films with the relentless urgency of the finale. By dedicating substantial narrative space to memory and motivation, it reframes Voldemort from faceless tyrant to architect of his own monstrosity. The audience is invited to consider not only how he must be defeated, but why he became what he is. That inquiry deepens the moral stakes of the impending confrontation. The performances across the ensemble reinforce this tonal maturity. Michael Gambone's portrayal of Dumbledore balances warmth with gravitas, while Daniel Radcliffe conveys a Harry increasingly tempered by experience. Alan Rickman's restrained intensity as Snape layers ambiguity into every glance. Tom Felton's portrayal of Draco channels vulnerability beneath bravado. These character studies elevate the narrative beyond fantasy spectacle into psychological drama. By the time the credits roll, the atmosphere is irrevocably altered. Hogwarts, once a symbol of sanctuary, feels exposed. The war is no longer rumor, but reality. Yet within that darkness persists resilience. The trio's final conversation about leaving school to pursue Horcruxes reframes education itself. Their true lessons have prepared them for sacrifice. The film closes not with resolution, but with resolve. In examining the architecture of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, one finds a deliberate deceleration. Instead of escalating through constant action, it dwells in introspection. The narrative trusts its audience to sit with discomfort, to absorb exposition about soul-splitting artifacts, to empathize with a frightened antagonist, to mourn a fallen mentor. This patience pays dividends in emotional depth. It transforms what could have been transitional into something foundational. Ultimately, this chapter stands as a meditation on memory and mortality. It asserts that understanding the past is essential to confronting the future. It acknowledges that growing up involves recognizing the fragility of those we rely upon. And it reminds viewers that even in a world of magic, choices define destiny. As the saga edges towards its climax, this film ensures that the stakes are not merely about survival, but about the integrity of the soul itself.